Hi and welcome to the weekly market update. It is Tuesday the 1st of October 2013. Okay, so last night we saw the US Senate and the House of Representatives unable to reach an agreement on the US budget, which has led to a partial shutdown of the US government. It's recorded about 800,000 jobs. People will be left sort of taking unpaid leave. We didn't see too much reaction in the markets this morning. The reaction seemed rather muted. People arguing that it was priced in largely yesterday throughout the day and in the run-up to the decision being made. The next deadline that we need to look out for is probably around the 17th of October. This will be sort of the final deadline day when we could see sort of a complete shutdown in the government, we're looking for a decision on the debt ceiling there. So that's going to be the next date to watch out for, but hopefully they'll be able to reach a decision possibly later this week in order to keep the government up and running. In terms of other news that we saw out over the weekend, in Italy we're obviously seeing a bit of trouble in the government there. We saw the resignation of 5 members of Berlusconi's party pulling out of government there, and this sort of leading to a bit of instability. We saw quite a lot of action in BTPs yesterday. It seemed to spike higher initially at the start of the day and then sort of sell off throughout. So there's something to keep an eye on there. We're expecting Prime Minister Letta to address Parliament on Wednesday, and we could possibly see a vote of no confidence, so something to keep an eye out for on Wednesday there in Italy. Other news, we saw a bit more minor, but in Portuguese local elections, we saw the Prime Minister fare rather badly in the local elections. Obviously, still stays in power as the main government, but maybe something to sort of keep in the back of your mind that when we do see the main elections coming back round, that he could be in a little bit of trouble there in terms of the power that he holds. And otherwise from Asia, in Japan we saw the sales tax raised. There'd been a lot of talk about it, or whether they would raise straight to the 8% from the 5%, or sort of stage it and do it in slight bits, but we actually did see it raised to the 8% for the sales tax in Japan. In terms of data that we saw yesterday, nothing too major in terms of data. We had German retail sales out and also Eurozone CPI. Those both coming in slightly softer than expected. From the UK we had M4 money supply and mortgage applications, or mortgage approvals, and we saw a better reading there. From the US we had Chicago PMI readings, PMI manufacturing readings. But the data largely yesterday was dominated by the political situations, obviously mainly in the US, but we've also seen the problems in Italy as well. So those seem to sort of overshadow the data that we're seeing coming out. In terms of data that we've seen this morning, seeing PMI manufacturing numbers out of the Eurozone and also from the UK, numbers all coming in slightly softer and a little bit worse than expected, or the last readings all in line, so no improvements there apart from in France, but that's still below that all-important 50 level. Otherwise we saw German unemployment data, and it's actually a slight worsening picture. The unemployment rate ticked up to 6.9%, and we saw an increase of 25,000 people unemployed in Germany, so not that great a data there. In terms of what we've got coming out for the rest of the day, it's going to be US-led data. We've got the market PMI final reading in the US, also construction spending, expecting that to slightly fall from the last reading. And then we get the ISM manufacturing number, expecting that again to get slightly off, 55 from 55.7 last. Okay, so into Wednesday, in terms of data from the UK, we've got PMI construction number from the UK. Again, seeing really strong numbers from the UK recently, hoping to see that continue, but whether we can maintain the real improvement that we have seen is sort of a bit debatable, but still hoping to see some really good numbers from the UK nonetheless. Eurozone, we've got PPI data, but the main event is going to be the ECB conference. Usually we see it on the first Thursday of the month, the ECB rate decision. However, it's going to be on the Wednesday this week or this month because of German Unification Day on Thursday. So we'll get the usual rate decision at 12:45, and then at 1:30 we'll see Draghi lead the press conference and have his Q&A post the statement. So that will be the focus really on Wednesday, and probably what we'll see in terms of the market movements. From the US, we also get the ADP number, the ADP employment number. This is ahead of the non-farm reading we're hopefully going to get on Friday. ADP is expected in around 180,000 from 176,000 last. We'll also see from the US ISM New York readings and mortgage approvals. Also bear in mind on Wednesday we have got a letter addressing the Italian Parliament as well, so again that's something to just bear in mind. Into Thursday, as I said, it's German Unification Day, so light on the European data front, but we do get PMI service readings from across the regions, all again largely expected to match the last readings, maybe look for slight improvements, but probably nothing too dramatic. We also get the UK PMI services reading, and again expecting that to hold at 60.5. From Eurozone also we get retail sales, and maybe expecting those to come in a slight better month on month, but a fall year on year, so a bit of a mixed picture for retail sales. And then the afternoon brings the usual from the US, the initial jobless and continuing claims. Expecting initial jobless slightly higher. We've seen some really good numbers, or some better numbers from the initial jobless recently, so we could see, expecting to see a slight uptick, but actually a better number for continuing claims. We also see the challenger job cuts from the US. Then we've got factory orders expected at 0.3 from a negative 2.4% last, so expecting to see some real improvement for factory orders. And then we get post the, we've seen PMI manufacturing readings throughout the start of the week, and then we get the non-manufacturing reading from the US on Thursday afternoon, expecting that in at around 57. Okay, so finally into Friday, overnight or early hours, we'll see the Bank of Japan release its monetary policy rate decision, and also statement there. From Europe, we've got German PPI and also Eurozone PPI data, and then we'll get that LTRO repayment as we do every Friday morning. Then the main data really is going to be the US non-farm payroll number, obviously the most watched bit of data probably out of the US. There's a bit of a debate because of the, obviously, the debate that's going on around the government budget between the Senate and the representatives. If they don't manage to pass something by the end of the week, there's a question over whether the non-farm data will still be able to be released on Friday afternoon, or with the employees that are no longer working, if there might be a delay to that number. So hopefully we will see it out on Friday, expecting around 181,000 from 169,000 last. So hopefully an improvement there in the number, expecting the unemployment rate to hold at 7.3%. Also, really watch out for that participation rate as well. We've seen obviously it fall quite dramatically and be at the lowest level seen for quite a number of years in the US, which is showing sort of the real health and the true picture of the unemployment in the US behind those headline numbers. So interesting to look out for a bit of that there. Okay, so I think obviously focus of the week, we're going to be looking at the ECB Wednesday, and then the non-farm numbers on Friday, but obviously overshadowed by the fact that we need a deal to be reached in the US on the budget, and then also the debt ceiling later in the month, so that will largely dominate the week. As usual, any feedback much appreciated. Thanks very much.